people who work hard but no longer have a voice. I am your voice.
Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new live stream. Make sure you guys hit that like button down below. We only have 39 likes. You guys got to be running up that tally. Let's get to 100 before we turn on the face cam. So make sure you guys hit that like button. Now we are at 70 as we continue to go up. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. We have a lot to get to, and we hit 100, so the face cam will indeed go on. And here we are. So Donald Trump today, technically it wasn't Trump himself, but Matt Gaetz decided to bow out of the Attorney General sweepstakes. He was nominated last week by Donald Trump. Now he's bowed out. He's bowed out of this Attorney General nomination. Donald Trump made a lot of waves in the political arena last week when he decided to nominate him. He's very controversial. He's a firebrand, but he's also somebody that is willing to take that chainsaw to the deep state and make sure that the Department of Justice is extremely gutted. He's not a status quo kind of guy, which is kind of the main appeal of somebody like a Matt Gaetz. He's not a status quo kind of guy. He has expressed a lot of interest in just absolutely gutting the deep state. And that starts with the Department of Justice, the same department that they weaponized against Donald Trump. That is what Matt Gaetz wanted to take an aim to first and make sure that he was able to go out there and make sure that this administration would not be a repeat of the first Trump term where the deep state was kind of allowed to thrive. You know, they weren't exactly putting Trump behind bars, but they were, kind of laying down the groundwork. They were working against the current president, which is something that Donald Trump sees in his cabinet now. He's like, I don't want people working against me. I'm going to pick people to be in my cabinet who are loyalists. And that is the most important thing. People talk about merit. They say Trump's cabinet is DEI for him. Well, I mean, it's supposed to be loyal to him. If he wants to succeed on his own merit, he's going to need people under him that are going to answer directly to him. Keep in mind, this is never a problem with literally anybody else. Whether it's Bush wanting people loyal to him or Obama or Biden, Bill Clinton, you name it. It's only a problem with Donald Trump, somebody who's an unconventional president, because they talk about the personality cult, this, that, and the other thing. It's a lot more than that, I will say, but you need people below you who are loyalists. You need people you can trust, because when you are such an unconventional candidate, there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of bad actors in both parties, especially in his own party, because that's really what matters at this point. He already beat the left. Now he's got to beat his own party. You have a lot of bad actors on the right, and many of them tried to sabotage and arguably did successfully sabotage the Matt Gaetz appointment. They're trying to sabotage other appointments. You have people like Nikki Haley saying that Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset. She's repeating the same talking points as Hillary Clinton was repeating back in the day. Again, these people are not exactly friends of an actual Trump presidency that is successful, a Trump presidency that is effective. And that's really what it comes down to. Now, Donald Trump, and we could pull this up today. This is the tweet from Matt Gaetz, and it's 100% his statement. And let me read it here. He said he met with a lot of these senators, because you have a lot of senators that represent safe red states. They vote to confirm Merrick Garland. They vote to confirm every Democrat appointee, but they won't confirm somebody on their own side because they happen to toe a little bit away from the status quo. That's the problem. That's the problem with weak, pushover, rhino, scumbag Republicans. There's a lot of them. And honestly, you could make the case that Matt Gaetz was never meant to be confirmed. And I might even agree with that. And we could talk about that. And, this could just be a ploy because it has a lot of upsides for Trump. One, Gaetz could very well just go back to Congress. He could run in his special election, or maybe you could make the case that he didn't really resign from the next Congress, so maybe he'll find a loophole back into his seat. So nothing of value in that case will be lost on net. And number two, he gets to see who in the Senate is loyal to him. And number three, he gets to see in the Senate, maybe if Gaetz falls a little short, maybe he gets to put up somebody who is, somewhat like Diet Gaetz, who is a little bit anti-establishment, good at their job, effective. And we'll get to that pick later because he made the pick. And this is partially why I think that he knew this was going to happen. He had backup. Maybe this is art of the deal. Maybe this is 4D, 5D chess. Maybe it's not. But the one thing I will say is there's a very good argument to be made that Donald Trump did this intentionally, and you're kind of seeing it. And Matt Gaetz is a part of the play, hence why Trump said we have a little secret at that Madison Square Garden rally a little bit before the election. This was apparently the secret that he was going to be AG, and maybe it was a 4D chess ploy. I don't know. But keep in mind, Gaetz is not typically somebody that's going to bow out of a fight. He's somebody that is a fighter. It leads me to believe that there's a chance that Gaetz knew from the get-go, yeah, he's not going to be confirmed. He's taking the dive on purpose here, and maybe that's what it is. But he said that the momentum was strong. He got a lot of support, but it's clear that his confirmation was unfairly becoming a distraction to the critical work of the Trump-Vance transition. There's no time to waste on this Washington scuffle. He'll be withdrawing his name from consideration. Trump's DOJ must be in place and ready on day one. And then he says he remains fully committed to seeing that Trump is the most successful president in history. He'll be honored that he nominated him, and he's certain that Trump will save America. So out of the gate, you see this here, absolutely just, deciding to bow out. That's what he was doing. And like I said, there's a very good chance that this was planned from the beginning. This was coordinated. There's a chance he's going to go directly back into his old seat when the new Congress starts. If he has to go through the special election process, he's probably going to win that special election regardless. He can go right back there if he wants to. If not, if he wants to just retire, maybe he does. Maybe he wants to go into media. Maybe he wants a show on Newsmax or something. I think he already kind of did something with that, but he could go directly back there if he wants to. So it's entirely plausible that that's the case, that this was coordinated, but it's also true and that there's a flip side. Even if this was 3D or 4D or 5D or 27 whatever D chess you want to call it, it doesn't change the fact that you have so many people that failed the test in Washington because all of these losers voted to confirm Merrick Garland, Rich, or whatever you want to call that person, Levine, all these people, Dr. Quote-unquote Dr. Levine, all these people, they vote to confirm all these clowns. All these clowns on the left, they vote to confirm them. But they don't vote to confirm their own if it's a little bit out of the box. A little bit out of the box. This is the problem. This is the main problem. This is why the right loses, because you have too many cowards who are unwilling to just have a backbone. They're unwilling to stand up for anything, for literally anything. And maybe you could say, well, he's shock-waving them. They'll put Pam Bondi, who's the new nominee, through, who might not have gotten confirmed before. They'll, get through Pete Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't amount to something like that. If somebody is nominating somebody from their party, the other side, it doesn't matter who you put up, they're going to get confirmed. But these people are controlled and owned by the donors, the special interests, all these people. That's who controls them. And as a result, you see exactly what's unfolding. You see somebody like Matt Gaetz who challenges the power structures in this country, who wants to gut the deep state. They're not going to allow it, and it shows that they're a part of it. The Republican Party, by and large, is compromised. Some of the people voting for Gaetz are only doing it, or would have only voted for him, because they're afraid to face their voters. But people like Mitch McConnell, who's on his way out. He's going to retire. He's going to retire with all this money, all this donor money, and he's probably going to yell about Trump on CNN for the last 2 years of Trump's presidency, because that's how these things go. Those people, no, they're going to be able to cave. They're going to be able to capitulate to the demands of the left instead of Donald Trump. So, it's possible that people like RFK get through, people like Hegseth get through. A lot of people are going to be able to get through. Maybe even a couple Democrats like Fetterman are going to vote for some of Trump's appointees, not all of them, but some of them. But when you have the limits just barely tested, it shows you that this party is broken. It's not so much that they oppose Gaetz for principled reasons. It's that they not only do they do that, and they're very unprincipled, because they support Merrick Garland. If you are principled, you don't support Merrick Garland and oppose Matt Gaetz. But maybe they are principled in their own way, because the only principle that they care about is upholding the uniparty establishment. That's what it comes down to. That's why it's so irritating. That's why it's irritating. Whether you think Gaetz is the best pick or not the best pick or whatever, maybe you wanted Ken Paxton, maybe you wanted Andrew Bailey, maybe you wanted somebody else. That's not the point. The main point is that the establishment, they're not operating under the good faith of, maybe Matt Gaetz doesn't happen to understand how to dismantle the deep state. No, they are the deep state. That's why they oppose him. That's what it comes down to. These people are not on your side. They're not your friends. They're clowns. They're cowards. And a lot of them, quite frankly, need to go in primaries and whatever, but we don't know if that's ever going to happen. So them bending the knee might be the best move, and we got to make him do it. And then you have people like Mike Lawler, who's a total loser. Again, Trump wins this guy's seat. We hear about, these people are like blue seat Republicans. It's like then Trump outruns them in their own district this time. I don't want to hear about electability, eluctability, whatever. These people have so much egg on their face, you just barely get into the electoral map. You can see it. They said Trump couldn't win. They said Trump needed to go because he's costing the Republican Party. And then he wins with a mandate-earning popular vote victory, something Republicans haven't had since 2004, something they've had once since 1988. And apparently this is like the thing that these people decide to do. They decide to counter signal the main picks that president is trying to put into power. He ran on gutting the deep state and he won. He ran on retribution. So the media said, and he won. Therefore, he should do whatever he wants. Then Mike Lawler puts out the gavel with laser eye, Kevin McCarthy, like he's some 14-year-old in a basement on Twitter, saying justice has been served. Like the guy's just basically like, haha, look, Matt Gaetz, you bowed out. You try to knock down this guy who is one of the most establishment speakers and that broke his own promises, hence why he was removed. He agreed to demands. He ripped up those demands essentially, and then, he got removed. And you're siding with this guy for whatever reason, probably because his donors fund you, and then you decide to say justice has been served with a picture of him with fictitious laser eyes and a gavel. It's like these people are backstabbing their own base. They want to remain in office, and then they're backstabbing their own base. And people could say, well, this is a blue district. You can't primary this guy. That's not the point. That's literally not the point. The point is that you don't do this. You don't backstab the base and expect reward. You should not be able to do that. I'm not even saying primary the guy. Some people will. I think there's easier targets to knock off. But the main takeaway is this guy's a clown. All these people are clowns. They're spending more time dunking on their own support base instead of actually trying to enact the policies that their support base wants. This is the problem with these people. These are not your friends. These are losers. This is why the right loses. Donald Trump said, disloyal R's, I'm going to have to teach them how to win. He said that back in 2016. And technically, he was technically right, but they're not listening. They're not learning. They're continuously stabbing their own base in the back. It's a major, major issue with these people. You can't do that. You just can't do that at all and expect anything in return. You shouldn't be able to, quite frankly. Now, will they get something in return? Yeah, obviously. They're not going anywhere. They know that, and it's a problem. And it's a major, major problem. But I will say that Donald Trump did hit back, and this was coordinated because, shortly after Matt Gaetz said he was removing his name from consideration, Donald Trump announced that Pam Bondi, who was the Attorney General of Florida, she's been a longtime Trump backer, even going back to the 2016 primary in Florida, when a lot of the people in the political establishment were supporting Marco Rubio in Florida. Pam Bondi broke from it. She supported Donald Trump, who won every county in that primary, except Miami-Dade, which basically is Trump's best county in the country now in terms of raw vote margin, like 100,000 plus vote victory. He took it by. But that's beside the point. But you have somebody who Trump put up there. A lot of people are like, yeah, meh. Like, we kind of lost the battle because Gaetz had to remove his name. And Pam Bondi's not a bad pick by any means. I mean, she's somebody who Trump says was a prosecutor for 20 years, was tough on violent criminals, and worked to stop the trafficking of deadly drugs and reduce the tragedy of fentanyl overdoses. She's been solid in terms of the border, in terms of these other things. Is she somebody who's going to go, with an axe of vengeance and try to just like gut the deep state? I mean, it's yet to be seen. One could hope, one could pray. She is qualified. She was Attorney General of the nation's third largest state. She won re-election by a lot. She served for 2 terms. There's no real problem that I see with her. Would I probably have tried to put in somebody like a Ken Paxton or like an Andrew Bailey from Missouri? Yeah, probably would have been like what I would have done, but I'm not Donald Trump. Donald Trump knows Pam Bondi more. He knows that she's somewhat of a loyalist, and that's the road he's going down. So, is this a pick that I'm saying, oh, wow, this is an amazing pick? No, but is it a pick that I'm saying is like a bad pick? No, and once again, she's got a real big chance to prove a lot of people wrong. I'm not doubting her. I'm kind of just saying, there's a lot we don't know. I'll give her a chance. Obviously, I assume she's going to be already a hell of a lot better than the last couple attorney generals we had under Donald Trump. You had Jeff Sessions, who was known for being a very solid senator, but he was very weak as an attorney general and kind of a backstabber who didn't know how to do his job properly. Because he wasn't really that much of a loyalist. He was somebody from the old guard. He would just happen to be like one of the old guard who happened to, be like based on immigration or something. And he was. But then you look at somebody like Pam Bondi, she, is a Trump loyalist. But when you're loyal to Trump and Trump tells you to enact out his agenda, who's the top boss? It's Donald Trump. She's not going to be like one of these, I can't do that, sir, like Bill Barr type of losers or some of these other clowns that have been in, Trump's administration or other quote unquote Republican administrations before that. So there's a lot to be, I guess you would say, we'll wait and see type of stuff on in terms of what type of attorney general she's going to be. I think she'll be great when it comes to immigration, great when it comes to the border. As for the like gutting the deep state, I don't know. I mean, did she do anything in Florida? I've heard from a lot of people she really didn't. But then again, state politics and national politics are 2 entirely different ball games. So there's a lot to be proven. We'll wait and see what she can bring to the table. I'm hopeful. And maybe some people in the super chats are gonna let me know what they think, and maybe they have positive outlooks, and maybe they have some negative outlooks about this whole thing too. Now, would I rather have Gaetz? Absolutely. Gaetz would have been an absolute just wrecking ball, a big middle finger to the establishment, but the establishment in Congress is just not willing to let that happen. They're not willing to let it happen, and it's sad, but it's the way it is. So without further ado, we're going to be getting to the super chats. Probably not going to be the longest stream in the world tonight, but we'll see what you guys have to say, and we'll see what chat has to say right now. 1,000 live viewers. Make sure you guys like the stream. Super chat if you have any questions or comments. We'll be talking about a lot of things that you guys have to talk or you guys would like to talk about. So without further ado, Maryland Degati 83 says, hey, Rep, I'm worried we might go to World War III with the rate Biden's going with escalation in Ukraine. I'm worried. Is there any hope? Well, the hope is that Donald Trump is going to come back in about 2 months. And I think a lot of people understand and know that on the world stage, and nobody really respects Biden, takes him seriously. So I guess there's hope in that. So we'll see what happens when Trump comes back to the White House, and hopefully you can get that war settled. Patriot 345 says Gaetz might take Rubio's seat. Well, that would mean DeSantis would have to go out of his way to appoint him. I don't believe that DeSantis is the type of guy that's going to do that. I think he wants that seat, to be honest. And I've said this about the guy for a long time. He's always been this office climber type of guy, whether people like him as governor or don't. It's objectively true. 2016, when Rubio was, saying he didn't want to run for re-election, DeSantis was running for that seat. Now, he eventually pulled out. He ran for governor in 2018. He narrowly won, and then he won re-election by a lot. And he ran for president, just completely bombed on the national stage, and everybody knows that. So he's looking for that next outlet, most likely in politics, because he's term limited. So he's probably going to appoint a yes man, and they're going to be there. And then you'll see what happens. He'll run for the seat, and he'll probably win by a lot because people know him. He's a big name. Florida's a safe red state now. Now, as for somebody like Laura Trump, a lot of people said he should appoint Laura. We could have the Trump dynasty. Some people are opposed to that. And my question is why? And the main thing is that you have somebody who's our president who needs people to enact his agenda. Why not trust somebody who's going to be, a family member, somebody who's going to vote with them 100% of the time? That's a real question, because that's kind of what you're looking for. For 4 years, you're going to have that senator instead of somebody who might be a little bit like a wild card. I'm not opposed to it. Now, technically, she's only lived in Florida for 3 years. She was from North Carolina. She was almost going to run for Senate there. I don't know if she wants the seat. We'll see, but I don't see DeSantis going on and appointing her, because DeSantis is surrounded by a lot of yes men, not just yes men, but people who happen to get in his head and tell him all these things that happen to also be some of the most deranged people to walk the face of the earth that we had to deal with back in the primary. So based on that, he'll never appoint somebody who's all that Trump related if he's, asking around for certain cabinet picks. But honestly, she's done a great job at the RNC. I would personally be fine if she just stayed where she was, but if she wanted to go for the Senate, so be it. And the main reason why I say the dynasty thing is something I'm not opposed to is because the GOP has such an awful branding problem. Everybody understands that the Trump brand, if that was the GOP, people would actually, in most cases, be more likely to vote for it. And having more like Trumps in office technically could speed run that process, in my opinion. Certain low-funded, supposed, MAGA-aligned candidates, they can't get the job done. A lot of them are frozen out. A lot of them just don't have that much political experience, but these people are not really going to be able to be frozen out because of their direct ties to Trump. So I'm not opposed to the idea. We'll see whoever gets appointed. I don't think it's going to be Gaetz. I think Gaetz might go back to his seat in Congress. He'll find a way. If he wants it, he could have it. If not, then, he's probably going to go into media. Maybe he doesn't want to be in Congress anymore. I don't know. He had to understand that he was going to resign knowing there was probably a sizable shot he was not going to be confirmed. I will say that. And whether people like that or not, I don't like the fact he didn't get confirmed. I've ranted about it for 20 minutes on the stream already. But in reality, there is something to the notion that, he probably could have done this in his own best interest. Some people are mentioning the potential scandals. I'm not saying it's related to that. Maybe he just wants to, go into media or something. Okay. A little bit of water spilled out there, but that's okay. We should be fine. Let's see. We have Red Whale Politics with a $10 super chat, and then another $10 super chat saying it's funny seeing the left cope and shift the goalposts, saying Trump's margins aren't a mandate or a landslide, even though he won big. They set the rules and for a mandate for years. They're hypocrites. Well, they are, because Bill Clinton won 43% of the popular vote in 1992. I think he won 48% of it in 1996. And this guy gets to be heralded as the mandate man by Time Magazine, by every organization. But Donald Trump, who may end up with 49.8%, 49.9% of the vote, he doesn't get the mandate, even though you have RFK Jr., who ran as a Donald Trump campaign surrogate, also on the ballot getting 0.5, 0.6% of the national popular vote. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Apex Caliber says, we witnessed the big ask in real time. Art of the deal. It's possible. It's possible. Johnny Heartdog for two says, what do you think of Trump's new pick for AG? I think we covered it already. She seems promising. She seems like a loyalist, but is she somebody that's going to take the hammer to the deep state that Matt Gaetz basically said he would do? Like, that's kind of what we're waiting on, and I'm not going to hold my breath on that. Is she going to be a solid attorney general? I'm sure of it. But are we going to get somebody who's going to go out there and just take that hammer to the Justice Department? I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully. Brandon Fairbanks says, who will be the most based pick? If you're talking about all of Trump's picks, I'm unsure. There's a lot of picks I like. I love the RFK Jr. pick. If he really has this ability to change the American diet in a fundamental way, that is going to rapidly transform our society, because it all starts with the individual. You talk about politics. Where does that word come from? I'm not even saying it's 100% related, but you talk about population, which, again, that's what comes together in politics to make that decision. It's made up of the populace. The most, I guess you would say, power that somebody gets is a vote, and that comes down to that individual. And if you have an unhealthy population that does not have the access to proper nutrition, you're not going to have a healthy society. You're going to have a society full of a bunch of zombies who are cogs in the wheel for machines. They're incompetent. They don't do their jobs properly. That's kind of what we have in this generation, and basically all generations at this point. And that's something that we need to rapidly change. And it's not the topic in politics that's going to generate all the buzz, all the headlines, but we do need to make America healthy again. He's 100% right. And if he's able to make some headway, he'll be one of the greatest picks, I believe, of all time. Daniel Krieger for $100 says, hey, Rep, I'd like to apologize for missing your live coverage of the election this year. Consider this donation me making up for that. Keep up the great work. We are so back. Well, thank you. Appreciate it, Daniel, for the 100. And it is true. We are indeed so back. And if you'd like to go back and watch the coverage, it's up on the channel in the live tab. Not saying you already haven't already, but we had a good time when the stream finally stopped lagging every 5 seconds. Krishan Lal says, what would the Electoral College and popular vote look like in the 2024 election if the U.S. had mandatory voting? I think Trump would have done better. I think he would have done even better. I really do. I mean, every poll that showed like non-voters, people never voted before, Trump would win those almost invariably. Johnny Heartdog for $20 says, when you played the Lickman versus the yogurt guy on your last video, you left out the best part. The part where he considered saying bad things about him as blasphemy. Is he some sort of a... Well, no, I played that part. I don't know if you watched the full video, but I did play that part. So when it comes down to the whole Cenk thing, when Cenk is the adult in the room, that's how you know the left has gone off the rails. And maybe it's part of it is he's grifting by acting reasonable for once in his life, and maybe he is. But Lickman is just absurd. Like, the guy is crazy. He's playing an act. It's like a really good bit, you could argue. It's like the guy's an actor at this point. He goes out there and he says that he was right about the election and Cenk was wrong when he literally got it wrong. His keys were wrong. Everybody said they were going to be wrong. Everybody said that Trump was going to win. Everybody with half a brain said that Donald Trump was at least the favorite, at least a 2-1 favorite in the election, because the fundamentals were not there and he acted like his keys were infallible. And he acted like he was God. And that's also partially why he said, don't blaspheme me when he got criticism. It's like, you're not God. You're not above criticism. You got it wrong. Like, everybody can see it. And it's like, the guy is a clown. Like, that was probably one of my favorite videos that I've ever made. Just because of how funny and entertaining it was. But no, I did play it in the video. He does think that he's some sort of God, and he's wrong. He got it wrong. He got 2016 wrong, technically, because he said it was for the popular vote. He said Trump could only win the battlegrounds of Iowa, Ohio, and Nevada. That's not 270. Supposed election expert doesn't realize it. So he got 2016 wrong. He got 2000 wrong. Especially now he says it's the Electoral College again. So he got that wrong. Even though he now tries to claim that it was because they stole 2000 or something, which, again, not accurate. Whichever way you want to look at it, you could blame the butterfly ballots or whatever. You can't say that in the actual fair count, it was supposed to go to Gore. No, Bush won Florida. They wanted to recount it 30,000 times so they could find a time where Gore won, and then they could stop counting. That's what they tried to do. It didn't work. And they were the OG denialists, as they love to say. Speaking of denial, Bob Casey did concede officially, so there you go. But Johnny Hartdog for 20 says, here's my concern. Trump has 2 years to get his agenda through before the midterm House races. If these garbage rhinos fight him, then midterms come and we lose the House, then the chance to clean house will be gone forever. Well, it's true. You have 2 years. You got to make something happen. Because it doesn't even matter what happens. You understand that in midterm years, usually a party loses seats. There are very few exceptions, and maybe that could be bucked if the GOP takes a stand with mid-district redistricting, which, depending on the state, they probably won't. But Ohio, you might have an opportunity in Ohio. You might have an opportunity to pick up a few seats here and there, and if they do that, then it's going to be clear. Red whale politics is people didn't care about 1-6 because of the BLM riots. Yeah, I mean, in rational theory, that would be accurate. Now, that's not how they were covered in the media. That's how I covered it. I've said that if people are upset about that, they have to look at that in the same light, because you have the same time frame. You have the nominee of the Democrats bailing out rioters who went on to commit murder versus something that Donald Trump gets blamed for people in a Capitol building. No deaths occurred that were caused by his side in terms of what the other side had. People love to talk about police officers that got beaten up or assaulted, how many were assaulted, injured, or even killed during the BLM riots. You can't even compare the two. So technically, you may be right. Maybe that's what people use to justify it. I haven't heard that argument a lot leading up to the election, but technically, I've been saying that for a while. It's selective outrage is really what it is, especially when they made Harris the nominee. And we'll never have to hear her or of her name. We'll never have to hear about her ever again unless she runs for governor of California, tries to pull a Nixon, which is going to be pretty funny. And like Nixon, she's going to lose because she won't even make it out of a primary. She'll lose to a Democrat. Johnny Hartdog says Gaetz resigning after being nominated tells me there's more to the story that we know. He must have known he was. Yeah, I agree. There has to be something else to it. Maybe he does go back into his seat. We'll see. But Johnny Hartdog for 20 says a lot of people are saying Trump's playing 4D chess. Gaetz bowing out is part of the plan. While that sounds like the same Q garbage that was going on 4 years ago, part of me thinks there's something. Yeah, I mean, there is likely something to it. Pam Bondi's not a bad pick. I mean, you'd rather have somebody like a Gaetz, somebody who's like a firebrand in there, but she's not like, I mean, she was viewed as a firebrand herself in Florida, for a little while, not to the same level. But she was somewhat of a controversial pick. She's had her fair share of witch hunts against her, and she's more likely to get confirmed. So maybe that's what Trump is thinking. I don't think that 4D chess is something that you can use to explain every decision Trump makes, like some of these QAnon type of people used to do 4 or 5 years ago. But I also don't think that there's no such thing as 4D chess coming from the man who wrote The Art of the Deal himself, because there absolutely is. We've seen that on many occasions. He's in a media firestorm. He starts tweeting crazy things to divert the media. Like, we see that all the time. So, let's see. Red Whale Politics for 10 says, I don't know why people are dooming about Trump's cabinet. So far, it's been very good. A couple questionable C-tier people, but overall pretty good. Nothing like the first term cabinet. No, I don't understand why there would be this concern. Like the one area where people are raising concerns about, oh, this guy might be too much of like an establishment, it's mainly foreign policy. But then people forget that Donald Trump's foreign policy during his first term was near spotless. And what was the main blind spot? Well, he didn't pull out of certain conflicts, or he bombed certain nations like Syria when he probably didn't need to, or whatever. And then you look and understand that the Pentagon was lying about those events, and that was under Mattis. You're going to have likely Hegseth if he's able to get through. He's somebody that even some people will say, well, he liked the Soleimani strike, so he's a little hawkish. And maybe he is to an extent, but he's also not the type of guy who is so much of a shill that he's going to lie about troop counts in Syria to Donald Trump. Like, he is a loyalist type of guy, and that's what Trump is looking for. He's not like one of these old generals that he's trying to like make a MAGA star, and then it clearly becomes a facade like it was with Mattis when he was selected to run the Department of Defense. FM32047 says we need Gaetz or Hulkamania for Rubio Senate. So Hulk Hogan in the Senate would be entertaining. I don't know if it's a viable selection, but again, these are questions for DeSantis. You're going to have to go through him. You're not going to have to go through me, because I'm not making the pick. I could make any one of these picks right now. If I was governor of Florida, I'm not governor of Florida. I can't make that decision. The Pweb for 5 says, hey, just came from Vince's live stream. One go to another. I didn't know he was streaming, but appreciate the support. Ash K2 for 10 says, July 21st was the worst day of my life. I was on the verge of tears, bought in the hype that a 08 result could happen, plus anecdotes of Republicans defecting on Reddit, etc. Thanks for the coverage. You're welcome for the coverage, and this is why you don't trust Reddit. Like, the main thing that made me realize that there was no real Republican for Harris thing is because you had the same surge AstroTurf for Biden. And back then was more of a tumultuous time where you actually had some Republicans who were worried about like COVID, bought into the COVID nonsense. A lot of them, bit the bullet for Biden. Somebody like Kamala Harris, there's not any amount of media gaslighting that is at this stage in the game is going to convince a potential Trump voter who was voting for Trump against current Biden to vote for Harris. It just didn't happen. It's all been AstroTurfed, and these AstroTurf things don't work anymore because people just don't trust the media as much as they did a few years ago. And Reddit is full of mental patients. Ice Cold says, even as a Trump fan, the dude was controversial. Oh, of course Gaetz was controversial. There's no debate. Sometimes controversial is good. Sometimes controversial means that the pick is not going to exactly succeed. Donald Trump knew Gaetz was controversial the second he decided to pick him. If you don't think that he did, I don't know what to tell you. LinRX52 for 20 says, Byron Donalds has his eyes on something. I think we'll see some musical chairs in Florida. Trump may be downplaying Bondi on purpose. At any rate, she's going to have a lot of skilled loyalists around her. Well, I think Byron Donalds is going to run for the governorship and succeed DeSantis. I think he's going to go for that position. Johnny Heartdog says Nick Bajich has officially won, but it looks like rank voting will remain in Alaska 98%. Yeah, I saw that. It's soul-crushing, but I will say the ranked choice initiative was very underfunded. The side that said to keep it, so I guess it's yes, was like outspending the other side like 18-1. So if we can get that on the ballot and fund it properly in 2026, it's possible we can get rid of it. But Lisa Murkowski, words cannot express my disdain from Lisa Murkowski. I'm not going to talk about her right now because I'm just going to be filled with rage, and I don't want to be filled with rage right now. Comrade Dushkin says, I'm concerned about whether Trump can actually pull off the mass deportations. Tom Homan isn't going to be DHS secretary and the donors behind Trump. Well, I'm not worried about the donors. Donors are irrelevant right now. He won the election. He doesn't have to worry about re-election. You could talk about donors for what the midterms or whatever. We'll get to there. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But when it comes down to the mass deportations, my main concern is not Trump and his ability. It's what we're seeing with these local law enforcement officials. They're saying we're not going to comply. Well, you better comply. And hopefully Trump and this DOJ is going to sue the hell out of these people. Some of them should be put in jail for not complying because they're harboring illegal aliens. Sanctuary cities, the concept of a sanctuary city 30 or 40 years ago would be insane. It would be unconscionable. But that's what we have right now. That's a problem. That's a problem. But I will say ranked choice voting did get shut down everywhere. It was on the ballot, it seemed. Arizona, Nevada, all these states, Montana shut it down. So it does seem as if a lot of people across the nation are becoming more and more opposed to it, which is a good thing. Life of Brian says MAGA lacks organizational power or power base outside the GOP. What's the contingency if Trump cucks on his cabinet and we all get Mike Rogers clones? Well, hopefully Mike Rogers is not the FBI director. That would not be a good thing. I hope it's Kash Patel. He'd do a phenomenal job, but that's the way it is. Ryan McDonald says 2021 you supported Jack Citarelli for governor during the primary. As the Italian guy, don't make the mistake again. Well, I don't know who's running in 2025. If there's a better candidate that is capable of winning, I'd have to look at that candidate. I don't know who that candidate's going to be. But Donald Trump in New Jersey, he ran much closer than I anticipated. If Biden was still the nominee, I think he could have won New Jersey. It could have been like the Indiana 2008 of this cycle. Ragdoll MMA says, what's reps, max bench, or gym stats? Well, I don't have to get into all the gym stats, but max bench, like 1 rep maximum, like 185 somewhere. I'm not the biggest guy. I'm 6 feet tall. I probably weigh around 155 pounds. But I'll say my max bench, my 1 rep max is probably somewhere around 185. So not the highest, not the worst either. I'm not in a competition with anybody else besides myself in the gym, and I've been doing a pretty good job of that. So I can't exactly complain too much about my gym stats. The Jaded Kriegsman for 10 says, I would have liked to see Gaetz as AG, but the new pick might be able to be more effective because people will just assume she's less MAGA than Gaetz. She could come in and, well, it's possible. I mean, you could say that's a wish cast, but I mean, she's not MAGA. She is to an extent MAGA. If you supported Trump back in the 2016 primary, you pass a very unique litmus test that a lot of people did not pass at that time, especially when you still had all these other people in the race, the more seasoned people, the Cruzes, the Rubios, those type of people in the mix. They were getting all the attention from a lot of these like career Republicans, but Trump was the one expanding the base with these new people, and he was winning over a lot of disaffected Republicans, disaffected right-leaning independents. So we'll see. So let's see. Ragdoll MMA says Lichtman lives near me. He's a classic Maryland TDS liberal. Well, I saw the picture of him. He ran for Senate as a Democrat, and they dragged him out. They dragged him out of the debate because he tried to crash the debate. He wasn't welcome. He didn't meet the polling threshold. So he gets arrested trying to get into the debate, and he's yelling, being handcuffed on his knees. There's a couple pictures. It's this is the same guy's behavior personified his entire career. He's been lucky. Because it's a mix of luck and just basic understanding. Everybody knew that in 1980, 1984, 1988, Republicans were going to win. 92 and 96, everybody knew the Democrats are going to win. So you go 5 for 5 in those elections, you're not some genius. I mean, you're not. 2008, 2012, those are easy ones to predict. 2004, even then that was, Kerry could have won, but it was still relatively easy to predict. And then 2000, again, he got it wrong. 2016, he got one of those two wrong. If you apply his keys properly, he actually would have gotten 2016 wrong. And he would have gotten 2024 right, for the record. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag on that front. Red whale politics, I know it's coming out of left field, but I can't believe the narrative of the Kyle Rittenhouse case, especially when people that got, redacted. I'm not going to read the last part, but I know what you're trying to say there. It's true. This guy self-defends himself from some unsavory folks, unsavory characters with checkered pasts, and he's vilified to be the worst guy ever. It was a horrible, horrible situation that he got caught up in, and they made it out like he was the bad guy, he was evil. No, he was in self-defense. We did a whole documentary on this channel back in 2021 discussing the merits of that case, just because of the fact that I was looking at this and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is not it. This is not it. But no, he was innocent. Everybody knows it now. American Patriots is, where do you see Kari Lake going from here? That's a question for her, not me. I have no idea. Could be media. I mean, she was already in media. Could she do conservative media? It's possible. Darth Chipmunk says, I'm not going to unban the alt, but I appreciate the $2 every stream. Tucson PaleoCon for $30 says, have a good day. Well, thank you. I'm having a very good day. Well, kind of. But I'm having a little bit of a better day now that you sent the 30. We'll leave it at that. So, yeah, also, here's another thing. Somebody in chat mentioned election integrity being a department, and that's true. When you have still 1.5 million votes left to count in this election, and we're going on 3 weeks after the election, we need change. People will say, well, elections are a state issue. Well, so is the drinking age, and everybody was coerced to make it 21 back in the 1980s. So why can't we exactly use the power of the federal government to make our states count their ballots fairly, quickly, and transparently? Now, not every case of slow counting is due to fraud or shenanigans. There's no reason for Lake County, California, which is not in a competitive House district, which is not in a competitive state or anything, to wait, I don't know, I guess at the rate they're going, by Christmas, they'll still be counting votes. You can't have that happen. There's no way. And yes, it does leave the door open to a lot of shenanigans in a lot of places, especially in California, where the state is controlled by the Democrat Party, and you have mass mail-in balloting, and you have a lot of illegal aliens. You're telling me these people aren't getting their hands on ballots when certain people are coming forward and saying that their house gets mailed 3, 4, 5 ballots? You're saying it never happens at all? I mean, even if it happens less than 1% of the time, how many, House races can be decided by that margin that could dictate the margin of the total House of Representatives when it's all said and done? This is a problem. This is a major problem. And, when you have something like this happen, this is leaving the door open to a lot of stuff. Pennsylvania, finally Bob Casey conceded. But after all this time, Bucks County was looking like a 1 or 2 point win for Trump. They keep counting provisionals weeks after, and then they count ballots, and they admit to counting ballots that were illegal. Now, I don't know if those are going to be in the final count or not, because they did lose the court case. And but when they were proceeding with the counting, they said, we don't care what the court says. They don't care what the court says. They don't care about following the law. They're just blatantly ignoring it. Imagine, you'd even have to imagine if a Republican county was doing that. You wouldn't even have to imagine that. We understand those people would be in jail for decades by now, but they're not, because Republicans are stupid. Democrats play to win. They play for keeps, but you can't even confirm somebody as Attorney General who's just a little bit controversial, You can't confirm them. So I'm happy with the victory. Obviously, we worked very hard. We worked tirelessly for it. For years, we fought both very dumb people on both sides of the aisle in the process who tried to stop this guy, and he triumphed. Now, I will say, moving forward, he's going to be the president, but there's going to be a lot of bad faith actors still, And while it's a hell of a lot better than it was during term one, we've made a hell of a lot of headway. There's a lot of headway to make as well. So we got to keep on going and make sure that we can put pressure on these people, hold their feet to the fire if even possible. Let's see. Tom Sapp 5 says, I enjoyed the election stream. You made the night bearable. Well, I appreciate it. I mean, it was a good night. You know, usually the election streams, we had only like one major stream for like a statewide race in history where it was a good night, and that was 2021. Now, this definitely triumphed by far, not even close, but we had 2020, we had 2022. This was the big win. Hopefully we can capitalize on that momentum. It is true when you have a coalition that's lower propensity mixed with a party that is still got the brand of the old guard. Like they need to like fundamentally undergo the brand change to Trump. And, you know, Mike Johnson gets credit where it's due for going and hanging out with Trump at these UFC events. You know, he's up there. He's, you know, the Speaker of the House. He's somebody that I have mixed feelings about. I think pretty much everybody in chat has mixed feelings about. But, you know, him being there is a big sign that, you know, he's not going to be somebody who's going to be like a Paul Ryan. That doesn't mean that he's going to be perfect, but his main tendency is of capitulation to the opposition. But if Donald Trump is in that position, he's not going to be a bad speaker, in my opinion, just based on the fact that he, you know, was in lockstep with Trump when Trump was in the White House the first time when he was just a regular congressman. But we'll see. Either way, I think it's good for the brand that he's hanging out with Trump. If you're talking about the brand of the party and how they're going to do on off-year elections, they're going to have to lean into Trump, not lean away from him. They have to be smart about how they do that, of course. They need to, you know, every candidate's going to have their individual brand, not just try to ride in Trump's back pocket. But, you know, the brand of the party in terms of the core, like, tenets of what makes MAGA, what makes Trump's movement, like, that has to be what the party stands for. They have to be the, you know, anti-endless wars party. They have to be the anti, you know, just give big business whatever they want party. They can't do that. They need to be, you know, moving away from zombie Reaganism, which essentially is a term that just captures, we're going to talk about, 1980s conservative policies in 2024, thinking it's going to win elections like Reagan did in 84. It's like technically not true. The movement's ever changing. Even Trump in 2016 and Trump in 2024, there's many things you could point to about this campaign and say, wow, that's actually a better thing that wasn't there before, like the Make America Healthy Again. Make that a tenet of the party. A lot of people are catching on to that movement as well, and I think that definitely helped win over a lot of voters. It did. The Jaded Kriegsman says we need to make sure the people who came out because Trump was on the ballot need to come out again in 26 to keep MAGA rolling in exactly. And primary rhinos, but we got to pick our battles. We got to pick our battles wisely. I don't think we're going to be we're not going to be able to take out somebody like Susan Collins, but somebody like John Cornyn, yeah, the primary challenger can also win the general, which I think is a big plus. Depends on what happens there. Gary Enos says, what's with Trump considering the past Soros employee for Treasury? Well, the guy you're referring to is supposedly has a past association with Soros the same way that Donald Trump himself is a past association with Soros. That guy's another Trump originalist. From what I've read about him, I like the guy, unless I'm missing something. But it's like he did business deals in New York. He's going to do something with Soros. Doesn't mean that he's like bought and paid for by Soros. Some of these other picks that were briefly considered would have been atrocious, and they have a lot more of those ties. So the Pueb says, I watch your election stream, Vince's and John's all at once on different screens because you three are my favorite political content creators. Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Jay Lewis is deep dive vid on who in the Senate is. Well, we'll do a senator tier list and who's most susceptible to being primaried or Dem seats that are, we'll cover that all. We'll do a tier list next month on the governors updated and the senators for sure. at least on the Republican side. Let's see. Apex Caliber says, Cenk, Elon, and Don Jr. agree to cut the Pentagon spending. Wow, MAGA. Yeah, look, Cenk is doing more to advance some of these things than the Senate GOP is doing, arguably. Like, he's the one that even said, the reason why a lot of these people oppose Matt Gaetz is not because of his, personal life controversies or whatnot. It's because he represents, a type of Republican who's against the, corporate order within the GOP or whatever. He's technically not wrong. Now, what do we really make of Cenk's new transformation? Is it a grift? Yeah, possibly. I don't know. He has a big audience of liberals. I don't know if losing them is all worth it, but he's making sense. I think he just wants to do it to say, I was right about these people. The Biden-Harris regime, all these years, they were, they were not able to win. He might be trying to do that to get his progressive pick in there, but he's also counter-signaling things like identity politics. So who knows? Who even knows at this point? He's calmed down a little bit, I guess. So good for him. I mean, I will forever like Cenk just because of what he did to Lichtman on that show, because that is the biggest piece of comedy gold I've seen in politics in a while. So good for Cenk. Good for Cenk. Broken clock or not, good for him. Ragdoll MMA says, thoughts on Rufus from X. Rufus is a clown. Rufus he's somebody, he thinks he's smarter than he really is. And he's got these, apparently he says he has these Ivy League degrees. He might have these Ivy League degrees. He might have them in engineering. It doesn't mean that he's going to have a good political acumen, because he was wrong about every single thing the past 2 years, and honestly the past 4 years, because he got the midterms very wrong as well. So just because I didn't have the best cycle didn't mean that he had the same he actually had some worse predictions if we go through them. Apex Caliber says, can Vance flip Virginia and New Jersey if the administration's successful? It's possible. Depends if the Democrats are able to regroup, which even if they regroup in a midterm year, it is no guarantee they're going to regroup for 2028. It's not. They had to use COVID to skew the 2020 election basically in their favor. They're not going to be able to do that unless there's, COVID the sequel. And even then, people aren't going to buy it because people don't trust the media. So we'll see. Unless the media put on the MAGA face, or at least calm down to get the trust back, which is that even going to work? Probably not. But yeah, people like the Morning Joe crowd, they're going to Mar-a-Lago all of a sudden. They were calling him Hitler 2 weeks ago. So now they're happy and friendly with the man they called Hitler 2.0. That doesn't add up to me. It really doesn't. It just speaks volumes to how much it's all theater for these people. And they're just trying to stay in business now. They're afraid of Trump, though. It shows they're afraid of Trump, and it shows that he's commanding respect because, yeah, they pushed him over the edge with all these criminal cases, everything for the past 9 years. You're damn right he's going to seek some sort of retribution of sorts. They say it like it's a bad thing. It's like even if he's just doing well for the country and putting, holding people accountable that need to be held accountable, that's retribution in a good way. Would it not be? Apex Caliber says, I genuinely would trust Cenk and Anna more than you. Yeah, Anna Kasparian has made some intriguing strides as of late, I will say. I don't know if it's the Armenian DNA reigning supreme in her or whatever it is, but she's making sense. And she also looks like she's kind of had a glow up in the process, which it's kind of funny. She looks like she's 10 years younger than she was a few years ago. So, good for her. She's making sense lately, more so than usual. I guess Cenk is kind of becoming Armenian too, in a way, if he keeps this up. But I'm not holding my breath. I'm just laughing at it, enjoying the ride. They're making good points from time to time. They're roasting the same people we love to roast. So have at it. Let's see. XJ Cherokee Bear says, did you see the Yeah, the Jaguar ad, it's ridiculous. Like, everybody knows wokeness is on its deathbed. It's being mocked. Even the left is starting to kind of at least admit that it's costing them elections, even though they're questioning how they rooted out of their party. And Jaguar, the car brand, as they like to pronounce it, in Britain, they're doing this advertise, these like drag queens, all this stuff, and there's no cars in the ad. Like, there's no cars. And then you see the actual car, it's like, who would want that? And then the logo is just societal decay personified. You go from like the actual cool Jaguar to, I don't know, these weird font of the word Jaguar. I don't know, man. It is a mess. It is a mess. Apex Caliber says, I predict Dems work more. Well, if they work with him on like infrastructure or something, it's one thing. But hopefully that doesn't mean that he's like capitulating to what they want. Jonathan Williams says, I disagree with abandoning socially conservative initiatives. We need to return to a 1980s type social environment. Can't just focus on the economy. Well, you're right. The question is, how do you go about that at the federal level with the current state of society? You know, maybe if we could just roll it back to the 2010s, we'd be making progress, and then go from there, and then go from there, and then go from there. Maybe see what we could do. A Bergefell unconstitutional, just like Rose unconstitutional, get that overturned, kick back to the states. You know, you got to look at all this stuff, but it's not going to happen overnight. But I agree with you overall. The question is, how do you go about it at the national level when there's so many moving parts, and when the old guard, supposed social conservatives at the national level, failed miserably at enacting some sort of societal stopgap despite winning elections during that time frame. Let's see. Jaded Cragsman says Ivy League's overrated. They're supposed elite nations due to their bankroll. Reality is that from the Ivy League means you were taught by the TAs. Well, I mean, it is true that you can say it's overrated, but it is true that they've had admission standards that are high, and then have given people a lot of connections. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Is the actual education people get at an Ivy League miles better than one that they would get if they took like a decent course load at a regular university? A lot of it is the same material. You know, maybe there's some professors that'll change people's lives or something, but a lot of it is just about, you have people that pass like essentially an IQ test where they can become, you know, in that elite group of people so they can make connections. I feel like that's mainly the point of the Ivy League, more so than, the education. I don't think the education is all that remarkable from what I've understood. It's more about the environment that people are in, and that's that. But again, it is true, and something that I see the aforementioned Rufus guy talk about on Twitter, he's right about, is that if you turn down Harvard for some, like, I don't know, mid-tier school, you're kind of being foolish, I would say. And not saying that those mid-tier schools can't produce good people, but if you get that option, like, I don't care how woke Harvard is, I'd rather take Harvard than some, small school that has a more conservative reputation. But there's a lot of things to consider. If it's like a decent school that has, I guess, a more conservative reputation versus technically a better school without one, I might want to take that decent school if I'm in that position. So yeah, Harvard is it's a club, and you have affirmative action. You have a lot of people who get in there, probably don't get in on their merits. It's just the way it goes. And a lot of those people probably could get into like a top 30 college on their merits. But instead, they go to Harvard, and it's weakening society. It weakens the society. DEI weakens, essentially. Let's see. Base Cats says, make Shank emoji great again. We're not going to bring that back. We've retired it a long time ago. Apex Caliber says, if the Young Turks buys MSNBC, ironically, is it a good thing? I don't know if that would happen. We'd have to see on that one. But let's see. Ragdoll MMA says, what happens if Haley was the nominee? What about Ron? I cannot see Ron DeSantis win a general. I just can't. Maybe you could say if Biden was the nominee, they had a later debate. But, like, I don't think that you're going to see, because, like, Donald Trump won with a resounding coalition that these, like, DeSint types said that DeSantis would get. But the main Achilles heel for these other Republicans has been that upper Midwest, that Rust Belt. Who's getting out these voters? You think Nikki Haley would get those voters out? You think she would do well enough to counteract Milwaukee inflated statistics overnight, 3 a.m., because she ran it up in like St. Croix County or some of these? Of course not. She's not getting those numbers. You know, maybe you could talk about like, oh, Virginia might get closer. I don't think she'd flip it, for the record. So no, I think Trump was the most electable candidate, partially because he has a record and people genuinely liked his record. If you want to go through DeSantis's favorable ratings, we could do that. He's way underwater compared to Trump. And the same thing goes for Haley. Haley arguably would have a third-party problem. If RFK Jr. would stay in the race, I think most of you guys probably, he'd be the Ross Perot of this election. So again, I don't really think that this, like, oh, if these people would have done better argument, it doesn't add up. It doesn't. It never did. It never will. And some people just need to let it go and say, you know what, you were right. I was wrong. And that's fine. DeSantis you have a record as governor that a lot of conservatives like. You won re-election by a lot, does not translate to the national level. If it was so good, you would have gotten a little bit more than 21% in Iowa in a caucus where you spend ridiculous amount of money. Hundreds of millions of dollars spent in Iowa by both of those candidates. They couldn't even crack a majority of the vote. Like, think about that. And they said, oh, the electorate is stupid. It's like, well, the stupid electorate picked the winner that got them 53 Senate seats and a House majority. Those barely saved. And a lot of that was because of the down ballot candidates doing worse. Mr. Jimmy just saw a Reddit post saying Bashir 28 would be the next. Yeah, that's not true. I never understand the Bashir obsession. Honestly, you could make a comparison to the DeSantis obsession. At least DeSantis has like a record that people can point to. Oh, he did that thing. Oh, he did that thing. Bashir just sits there. Like, he doesn't do anything. He can't do anything. He doesn't have a Congress that his Congress does everything for him. They run the state basically as a Republican state. So it's ridiculous. John Waffles' thoughts on the AG. We covered the AG situation. You can go back and listen. But we talked about it for like 40 minutes. Johnny Heartdog for 20 says, you're right when I said repealing ranked choice was underfunded. Perhaps you already know, but most funding for keeping it came from out of state. I will be signing all petitions that come to put it back on the ballot. Yeah. And how about out of state money as another referendum? Get out of state money out of referendums. Could we get that referendum on the ballot? I'd love to see that. Apex Caliber says Tulsi, Vivek, Youngkin, or DeSantis as Vance's VP. I mean, Tulsi would be a very intriguing pick. I don't think it's going to be Vivek. They're both from Ohio. Youngkin, I don't know. If Trump's term goes well, he could win that Senate race, possibly. If he ran, I don't think he would. I'd say if he ran and Trump's term was going well, he'd have like a 30% shot. Jonathan Williams says Harvard was once a shining college, not anymore. Well, it's still, it's still a huge institution. If people's kids get into Harvard, I recommend that they go. It's just the connections people have. But again, it's not for everybody. College itself is not for everybody. It just depends on what people want to go into. And it is basically a social club. But the social clubs open a lot of doors. A lot of even, successful conservatives that don't necessarily come out of Liberty, and that's no disrespect to Liberty, but you look at people like Steve Bannon, he went to Harvard. People like J.D. Vance, he went to Yale. Trump himself, even though he was in the business world, he went to Penn, which is another, Ivy League school. So Nitin says, can Citarelli win New Jersey? It depends. I don't know who the Democrats are going to put up. Again, it's hard when you're the party in power with the energy factor. I'll warn people about this before the midterms. I don't know who the Republicans are going to nominate. I don't know who the Democrats are going to nominate. Is it possible that there's a shot in New Jersey? It's possible. It just depends. But it's still, in many ways, a blue state. Johnny Heartdog says Alaskans do not want ranked choice voting, and they do not want that witch Murkowski. Well, hopefully They need to get her out of there. I don't know how, but it's ridiculous. The Jaded Kriegman says, no shame in being remembered as the great Governor Ron. Well, you have to talk to his surrogates about that, because they wanted this guy to run, and then they pick fights with everybody who has the slightest disagreement about DeSantis and try to, like, I don't know, just act like they're ending their careers when in reality they're just making a fool out of themselves. They haven't learned a thing. You think they would have learned something from Iowa before Iowa, but it becomes more unhinged and more unhinged. You know, some of these people that were on the DeSantis side, they can acknowledge this now, and I respect that, and I respect those people because they're able to do it, even if I have disagreements. But it's like, I don't know, man. It's just some of these people, I just can't get over it. It's like Lichtman level insanity. Josh Light says, any idea about California 13th? Duarte's leads down to 194. I have no idea. It depends on if provisionals are left or whatever. I know that the Michelle Steele seat's still technically not called either. Zachary Stewart says, we got Trump, Rubio, Waltz, Pam, Vivek. It's Florida man and compatriots all over. Let's go, my home state. Well, a lot of Floridas. A lot of Floridians, I should say, in there. That is true. And I like the cabinet. I can't look at somebody and say this cabinet pick is bad. I can't do it. You know, somebody like Mike Waltz is kind of meh, but even then, he's not like close to like the worst possible pick that somebody could make. Like I say, like B-. Like somebody like Kristi Noem, it's like it gets like a C, but she's not going to be doing the work. She's a cabinet head, figurehead. She's like the secretary for the real border czar, Tom Homan, who gets an A++. You can add another plus or two on that if you'd like. Base Cats is 2 weeks since LT's last upload. Yeah, see, one thing I will say is that when I get something wrong before, have I ever, like, stopped uploading? Have I just, like, consistently tried to get to the bottom of it and, like, kept posting video after video, knowing I would lose some people, but did it anyways because I knew at the end that I'd be able to actually fix my ways and get down to the bottom of it? That's not a shot at him necessarily. That's just, and I understand it's a taxing season. People like breaks. I haven't been uploading as much, but I will say that if I'm in a situation and I get something wrong, I'm not going to stop. I know I'm going to get clowned on. I've been clowned on, but I'm not the one getting clowned on now. I can say that much. And it seems like my autopsy report of 2022 was dead on accurate. And people that doubted it, and people that just said that I was, talking out of my rear, well, they were wrong. So we'll see. Well, we already did see, so we don't even have to wait and see on that anymore. But we'll see if they acknowledge it or not. They probably won't. Andrew T. P. says, if you ran for office, what would it be? I don't know. Like state representative somewhere probably would be feasible. You know, a lot of people say, I'm going to run for Congress, and they have no experience in campaigns, and they get like 3% in the primary. And I've thought about it. I definitely wanted to do it a long time ago, more than I want to do it now, but it's not something that's off the table. It's just something that's delayed a little bit, and we'll get to that. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. It is not over whatsoever. I'm not giving up on that, so... we'll see. We'll see what happens, as we usually like to say. But that's pretty much it, guys. I think we're going to wrap it up. We've been live for about an hour and 12 minutes. I know I said I would keep it a short stream, and it's kind of been. So we'll wrap it up with this last super chat from Apex Caliber saying, Cackles Harris is still asking for money. Of course she is. What do you guys expect her to do? You think she's just going to go away when she's in debt? No, I mean, she's got to get the party out of debt before they kick her to the curb. And by the curb, they mean the curb of the country in California, where she'll probably run for governor and probably get third place in that primary. So it is what it is. But she's done. We beat her. And we got a long way to go still before the inauguration. We got like 2 months. So it should be a fun ride. I know I haven't been posting as much. I've kind of just been making some plans for what the channel is going to be like next year, but it should be good. Should be a lot of cool content on the way. So stay tuned. Make sure you guys like the stream, subscribe, hit the bell. I'm not going anywhere, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle out.